Every time the news reports a market correction, every time they mention quantitative easing or unforeseen inflation, they are lying to you. It's a calculated, controlled narrative. They tell you it's the natural cycle of capitalism. They tell you it's a necessary evil. What if the entire system, the very foundation of modern global finance, was not designed to create sustainable wealth, but to engineer the largest, most insidious wealth transfer in human history? A transfer happening right now, under your nose, sucking $30 trillion out of your future, your retirement, and your children's inheritance. You feel it, don't you? That anxiety when the price of gas jumps again, that dread when the job market freezes, that crushing weight of debt that never seems to shrink. They want you to blame a virus, or a politician, or a war. But the real enemy, the real mechanism, is hidden in the dark, algorithmic shadows of finance. It's a system so complex, so vast, that most regulators don't even understand it. We're going deep into the financial black hole today. We're talking about the derivatives market and the secret world of shadow banking. This isn't theoretical. This is the financial pain you feel every morning. We're pulling back the curtain on the single greatest theft of our time. Before we dive into the rabbit hole, I need to know you're with me. Hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Where are you watching from? This is the unfiltered truth they don't want you to hear. Subscribe now and ring that bell, because this video might not stay up forever. To understand the sophistication of the modern theft, you have to understand the simplicity of the old theft. Rewind to the 1920s, the classic boom and bust cycle. What fueled it? Leverage. People bought stocks on margin. They put down 10% and borrowed the rest. It was a guaranteed euphoria until the music stopped. Then the banks didn't just seize the assets, they wiped out entire fortunes. The consequence was a total economic collapse, the Great Depression, leading to massive social upheaval. The official history book lesson. The government must regulate the banks to prevent excessive risk and protect the little guy. The creation of the FDIC, Glass-Steagall, the SEC. It was supposed to be the end of the banksters' playground. But here's the secret lesson they learned. Regulation doesn't prevent greed. It only defines the limits of the next loophole. Fast forward to the 1980s and 90s, the walls start to come down. Glass-Steagall, which kept investment banks and commercial deposit-taking banks separate, was gradually eroded and finally repealed in 1999. The official line? It was necessary for efficiency and global competition. The real result? It merged the safety net of the taxpayer your deposits with the casino floor of Wall Street. Think about that. It's like taking the FDIC insurance meant for your savings account and attaching it via a financial umbilical cord to a high-stakes, unregulated roulette table run by the very same people. Now, let's talk about the 2008 crisis, the subprime mortgage collateralized debt obligation, or CDO, a financial Frankenstein. Banks created these toxic bundles of mortgages, then used a brilliant piece of deceptive engineering to get them AAA rated. They sold them globally. When the underlying mortgages defaulted, the entire edifice collapsed. The banks had two options: suffer the loss they had engineered, or lobby the government for the largest bailout in history. They chose the latter, of course. Taxpayers were forced to absorb the risk, and the banks were made whole. No major executive went to jail. Sound familiar? A reckless banking practice enabled by a regulatory loophole leads to a massive transfer of private risk to public debt. But here is where the story pivots. 2008 was just a training exercise. It taught them the ultimate lesson. They are too big to fail, and the public will always pay. Today, the CDO isn't the weapon of choice. The weapon has been upgraded. The stakes are 100 times higher. The real money isn't in stocks or even bonds anymore. It is in the shadows. It is in a market that dwarfs global GDP. It is called the derivatives market, and it is the engine of the $30 trillion theft. Sound familiar? This pattern of privatizing profit and socializing loss is not a bug in the system. It is the feature, the ultimate financial pain you feel today, the chronic inflation. The crushing interest rates is the slow, lingering hangover from the perpetual bailouts and the debt created to cover the elite's high-risk bets. The entire structure of modern sovereign debt is built on the willingness of taxpayers to perpetually service the debt of the financial elites. The entire game hinges on one crucial, dark mechanism, and most of the media barely whispers its name. Sound familiar? We are watching history repeat itself. Only this time, the instruments of destruction are invisible, digital, and global. So, where did the big banks go after 2008? The official story is that they were re-regulated, that Basel III rules forced them to hold more capital and reduce risk. A nice, tidy narrative. The truth is, they just moved the party elsewhere. They moved it into the shadow banking system. What is shadow banking? It's not a physical place. It's a universe of non-bank financial institutions that perform bank-like activities, lending, intermediation, creation of complex products, but exist outside the regulatory perimeter of central banks. Think of hedge funds, money market funds, specialized investment vehicles. The core mechanism that ties the regulated banks to the unregulated shadow is the derivatives market. A derivative is just a contract whose value is derived from an underlying asset, a stock, a commodity, an interest rate. But the true power, the true menace, lies in its sheer size and opacity. The notional value of the global derivatives market is estimated to be over $700 trillion. That S, almost 8 times the value of all the goods and services produced on Earth in a year. It's a leveraged financial Godzilla standing on a very thin foundation. And here's the twist. The key to the $30 trillion wealth transfer wasn't a complex computer algorithm, it was a single political decision. A calculated choice that legalized the casino. It was the decision to allow what are called over-the-counter OTC, derivatives contracts traded privately between two parties, with no public exchange, no central clearinghouse, and almost zero transparency. This single regulatory loophole gave birth to the modern financial black hole. It allowed megabanks to create and trade risk instruments, things like credit default swaps, CDS, in the shadows, creating massive leveraged exposure that never shows up on their official regulated balance sheets. The entire system is a house of cards built on off-balance sheet leverage, and the person who championed the legal and regulatory architecture that allowed this explosive, unregulated growth was not a banker. He was a US senator, a political icon, the one who pushed through the legislation that effectively deregulated the entire complex. You won't believe the name of the man whose legislative push, disguised as financial modernization, laid the legal groundwork for the $700 trillion derivatives bomb. Let's name the weapon. It's the credit default swap CDS, and let's explain the true systemic threat it represents. A CDS is essentially an insurance policy against a default. Bank A owns a bond issued by Company B. Bank A buys a CDS from Bank C, insuring the bond. If Company B defaults, Bank C pays Bank A. Simple, right? Wrong? This is where the parasitic finance kicks in. In a normal insurance market, you have to own the asset to insure it. You can't insure your neighbor's house, but in the derivatives market, you can. Hedge fund X can buy a CDs on a bond they do not own. They are effectively betting on someone else's failure. It's a speculation masked as hedging. This is the first shocking number in the run-up to 2008. The notional value of CDS contracts on corporate bonds was estimated to be 10 times greater than the actual amount of corporate debt outstanding. A leveraged bet with a 10-to-1 ratio. But the real theft mechanism is called counterparty risk. When Bank A buys a CDS from Bank C takes on the risk. But what if Bank C is highly leveraged and using this business to generate astronomical short-term fees? What if Bank C is part of the shadow banking network and is UNT subject to the same capital requirements? In 2008, Bank C was AIGN Insurance Company that had written hundreds of billions of dollars in CDS protection, guaranteeing toxic assets with absolutely no collateral backing. When the bonds went bad, AIG faced a payout they couldn't possibly afford. They were a single point of failure. This is where the big reveal thesis becomes the operating principle. AIG was deemed too big to fail, not because of its insurance policies, but because of its CDS exposure. If AIG failed, it would trigger a chain reaction, bringing down every major global bank who was its counterparty. The solution, a massive taxpayer-funded bailout. The Treasury poured $182 billion into AIG. But here's the punchline. The vast majority of that money didn't go to AIG's balance sheet. It went straight through AIG's, acting as a middleman, and into the hands of its counterparty. Banks Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, European megabanks. It wasn't a bailout of AIG, it was a secret. Stealth bailout of the shadow banking system, disguised as an insurance company rescue. This is the second shocking number. The Federal Reserve was forced to create and inject $7.77 trillion in liquidity into the global financial system between 2007 and 2010 to stop the CDS collapse from seizing up the global markets. This injection, financed by public debt and cheap money, is the foundational fuel for the chronic, sticky inflation we suffer from today. The lesson they learned from the AIG success story: the game is rigged. The risk can always be transferred. Now, let's talk about the modern iteration, the interest rate swap, IRS. The single largest segment of the derivatives market, an IRS is simply an agreement between two parties to exchange future interest payments. For example, one agrees to pay a fixed rate, the other a floating rate. It sounds mundane. It's anything but. This is the third shocking number. The notional value of interest rate swaps alone is estimated to be over $550 trillion. Who are the main players? The megabanks. They use IRS to manage risk, sure, but they also use them to speculate massively on the direction of global interest rates. When central banks, like the Federal Reserve, raise interest rates aggressively as they have been doing recently, it creates a massive leveraged shockwave through this $550 trillion market. Banks that are net payers of the floating rate suddenly face enormous, rapidly escalating costs. The irony: the very central banks that are raising the rates are simultaneously trying to manage the systemic risk of the derivatives market. They are directly influencing. It's an engineered collapse waiting to happen. The complexity provides the illusion of stability. The sheer scale provides the moral hazard. The moral hazard is the guarantee that, no matter what, the central bank will step in. Why? Because if one of the big banks fails on its $10 trillion, IRS exposure to the entire $550 trillion structure risks implosion. This is the fourth shocking number. The global bank stress tests, often called comprehensive capital analysis and review CCAR, do not fully account for the total opaque exposure of their OTC derivatives and off-balance sheet shadow banking entities. The true real-time leverage ratio is a closely guarded secret, known only to a few insiders, but is widely speculated to be close to 50-to-1 for some mega institutions. This is parasitic finance in its purest form. The system is built on borrowed time. The elite financial institutions take massive leveraged risks. When the bets pay off, they collect the profits' private gain. When the bets fail, they are too interconnected to fail, forcing the central bank, the taxpayer, to cover the loss socialized risk. The $30 trillion wealth transfer is the gap. It is the amount of financial value created by systemic risk-taking that has been transferred via bailouts and perpetual public debt creation from the global productive economy to the financial class. It's the difference between what you own and what you should own had your future not been leveraged against their bad bets. The entire derivatives market is a closed-loop system for transferring systemic insolvency. It is a mathematical certainty that a $700+ trillion leveraged structure cannot unwind naturally. It will collapse. The only variable is who absorbs the loss. Big reveal, confirmation. The derivatives market is the ultimate opaque mechanism for transferring systemic insolvency from megabanks to sovereign nations and taxpayers, ensuring that the eventual, mathematically guaranteed $700 trillion collapse will be socialized, leaving the ultimate $30 trillion in wealth transfer permanent and irreversible. The fifth shocking number, from 2000 to 2024. The top 4 U.S. banks have seen their total derivative exposure grow by over 400%, while their regulated, on-balance sheet assets grew by less than 150%. The bulk of their risk is now in the shadows. This is the system they built, a system of engineered collapse where the elite are immune and you, the average citizen, are the perpetual safety net. So, where does this leave us? On the eve of a crisis that will dwarf 2008, the mechanism is the same systemic risk hidden in the shadows, but the stakes are infinitely higher. The system is faster, more global, and hyperly leveraged. The next domino will fall in milliseconds, not months. The philosophical lesson here is denial. We deny that the financial system is a game of transfer, not creation. We deny that the institutions built to protect us, the central banks, the regulators, are ultimately protecting the architecture of the theft itself. We trust institutions built on borrowed time, bought with the debt of the future. The system requires your ignorance to function. It requires your focus on trivial politics and sensational headlines, while the real financial architecture is being prepared for the final global wealth siphon. This isn't about blaming a single politician or a single party. This is about recognizing a pattern of reckless moral hazard protected by political collusion. The way out is not easy, but the first step is awareness. You must understand that your savings, your future, your nation's stability is being leveraged right now to backstop the reckless speculation of a few thousand people. The time for blind trust is over. The institutions have shown their hand. They will sacrifice you to save their system. The only real asset you have is your knowledge and your willingness to act on it. Educate yourself. Get your assets out of the system of borrowed time and socialized risk. Share this video. Share it with everyone who thinks 2008 was a one-off mistake. Let them know the weapon has been upgraded. Are we wiser now or walking the same path in better suits? The decision to remain ignorant is the most expensive financial mistake you will ever make. Subscribe now, stay skeptical, and together we'll keep exposing the darkest truths in finance.